Hey everybody, I am Ryan from Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews. This past weekend we had a chance to go to a little thing called Gen Con that is basically a big, giant board gaming or tabletop gaming convention. There, tons of great new releases get brought out and exposed to the public, and there we were introduced to something called Lorcana. That is Disney's new trading card game. There have been kind of two or three titans of the trading card game world for a long time. So you may have heard of Magic the Gathering or the Pokemon trading card game. Those are these epic deck construction games where you have to collect all these different cards and then you're going to battle against each other. They've been out for both of them have been out since the 90s, and really there's been no other game like that to kind of come out and really splash the scene. There's been plenty of games in that genre, just not that have made as big of a splash as Lorcana has recently. All right, so this is obviously a Disney-themed product, and I want to explain to you the top 5 reasons why I think that Lorcana might be a good fit for you and your family to play. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about, I guess this is my number 5 point. All right, so there's kind of this psychological thing that happens. It's a little bit leaning towards family friendliness. All right, so again, I'm going to be referencing Magic and Pokemon a lot. I have a lot of experience with those games. I've played them a lot with our daughters before as well. But in Magic the Gathering, specifically, what you're trying to do is you and your opponent will each have 20 health. And what you're trying to do is you are trying to take their health down to 0. So you're attacking them directly, trying to take their health down to 0. In Lorcana, almost the exact same thing is happening mechanically, except what you have is you have this thing called lore. You are building up your own lore, trying to get to 20. So effectively, mathematically, it's the same exact result, right? You're taking someone else's health down 20 or bringing your own lore up 20. But psychologically, what you're doing is instead of tearing someone else down and you're attacking, you're building yourself up. Well, there is a little bit of some attacking as well, but it's a lot gentler, and it doesn't affect your score so much. It's just more about what characters are currently in play. So I think it's a really brilliant way to just make this a little bit more friendly and more accessible. So instead, you don't feel so attacked all the time, right? My number 4 point that I want to make about why I think Lorcana might be a good fit for you and your family. First, it's just the art and the theme. I mean, this is Disney, right? This is all your favorite characters. You're going to be seeing Ariel and Ursula. You're going to be seeing Elsa and Anna. You're going to be seeing Mickey and tons of different iterations of Mickey. You're going to see Mickey as a Mouseketeer, or you're going to see Mickey as the Sorcerer's Apprentice, or you're going to see, Steamboat Willie Mickey. You're going to see all these different versions of all these different characters, and some are not even real ones from movies. They're kind of new to this storyline. So there's one that was Belle the Tinkerer that I really liked her abilities because it was just this cool, strong character that was able to mess with all these items. So you have all these different characters that you already know and you already love, and they're super recognizable as well. So it's going to be really fun to make a deck and be able to talk about, oh, I want to play the deck that has Jetson and Flotsam in it, or I want to play the deck that has I don't know, whatever, Sebastian in it. So I love just the theme. The artwork is incredible. They brought in a fantastic team of artists to make this vision come to life, and put the Disney stamp all over it. And man, it's just very accessible. All right, the third thing I want to talk about is the keywords. So in a lot of these styles of games, there's these certain keywords that are going to come out, and they're going to be somewhat complicated, and they're going to have some kind of a special ability, and they almost expect you to already know what they are ahead of time. So for instance, in Magic the Gathering, there's something called haste. On a card that has haste, all it'll say is haste. It doesn't explain what it is. It doesn't explain why it has it. It doesn't explain anything. And this is the first chapter, what they're calling the first chapter of Lorcana. Now, this might not always be true with all the cards, but certainly here in the first chapter, there's a similar ability called Rush. But instead of just saying, okay, this character has Rush, figure out what that means on your own, go look it up online or go find a rulebook somewhere. No, on the card, it fully explains all of the text that goes along with Rush and what that means, so you don't have to look anything up. And it's kind of training you as you're playing it with all these keywords. Again, that might not always be the case, but for all the cards that we have out now, all of them are explained in full detail, so you don't have to worry about anything. All right, my number 2 reason of why I think Lorcana might be a good fit for you and your family. One of the most fun things about Lorcana and these kind of trading card style games, but also one of the most kind of frustrating and challenging things, is constructing your deck ahead of time. You have to kind of make a deck ahead of time before you go into battle. Now, there is, first of all, some starting decks that you can buy that are already pre-made, kind of have some ideas in them, so you don't have to stress out about that. You can just play those and have a lot of fun. But once you get into it a little bit more, maybe you want to build your own decks, or maybe right out of the gate you feel like you want to start making your own decks. All right, well, there's only 3 rules, and they're all very, very clear. So the first one is your deck has to have 60 or more cards in it. Now, I would recommend probably just 60 cards, exactly 60 cards. That's what I do with all of my decks. You can put more in there, but when you do that, what you're essentially saying is the cards that you really, really, really want to get to, you're going to have less often, you're going to be able to see them less often because they're going to be kind of swallowed up in this bigger, more bloated deck. So I say 60 cards, or more, but 60 cards for your deck. The next thing is you can have exactly 4, a maximum of 4 of each kind of card in your deck. So if you have Aurora in there, you can only have 4 Aurora. Now, again, there might be different kinds of Auroras, and you can have up to 4 of each of them. But again, if there's just a certain named card, all the text is the same on that card, you can have a maximum of 4 of those cards. And the third thing is there's these kind of colors of the cards that they call ink. Ink is kind of, because it's a story-driven game, the lore behind it all, and the storybooks and the art and all that. So ink is the driving energy behind this whole game. So what's happening is you can only have either 1 or 2 colors of ink in your deck. In, again, Magic and in Pokemon, those are games where there's this huge inventory of cards, this backlog of catalog of just millions of cards, and they're of all different colors and all different kinds of energies or manas or whatever kind of resources you need to fuel those games. And you can pull in all these different colors from all these different ways in order to make these really, really complicated decks. And that can be really, really overwhelming. By being able to have either 1 or 2 colors of inks, you're really just narrowing your choices down. You still have a lot of choices to make. You still have some fun to get to experiment with, but you're not saying, oh, I have all these cards. How am I going to narrow down 60 cards out of all the cards in the universe? Well, you don't. Start by narrowing it down to 1 or 2 colors. And then within those 1 or 2 colors, kind of find an idea that works for you, that has some cohesiveness behind it, and I think you're going to have some success building a deck that way. All right, and now my number 1 reason of why I think Lorcana might be a good fit for you and your family, and that is, it is a brand new game. I mentioned earlier that Magic and Pokemon have both been around since the 90s, and other kind of card games have come and gone as well, but this is just starting off. We're in the first chapter, they're calling it. This is the very first wave of cards. Everything is very clear. Everything is very simple. I assume over time they're going to be kind of making more and more complex interactions between cards. But here at the ground floor, this is a great time to get in. If I were to go and play at a Magic tournament, I would be absolutely overwhelmed. I would have no idea what's going on. And I'm actually fairly familiar. But because I haven't kept up on it as much with the newest, greatest, best cards or whatever, I would be absolutely run out of there. I'd lose so badly. So being able to start at the ground floor means that as things get more and more complicated, you are kind of growing with it. You get the chance to kind of get some cards, make your decks, and then the next set of cards comes out, and you have a little bit more experience, you can kind of build upon that. The best time to start playing is now, when there's just an equal footing. If I were to go to a local store now and play Lorcana against you with your deck, we'd both have a really good chance of winning and have a 100% chance of having a great time doing it because it's so much less aggressive, right? And again, there is some attacking, but it's a much more welcoming, much more friendly experience, and it's going to be all about looking at this card art. You're going to be explaining all the different, there's little flavor text along the bottom of every card, so you get to see a little quote from a movie or whatever it is from a character that you love, and I love reading that. A lot of flavor text on some of these cards from other games, I'll just kind of like ignore them or read it to myself or whatever, but I feel like, I don't know, if I see Mrs. Potts' card, I'm going to want to sing along with whatever she has on the bottom of her card, because it's just adorable and it's fun. This is a welcoming, friendly system, and I think this is the best time to start playing. I think that you and your family are going to have a great time doing it. All right, guys, if you have any questions, please let us know in the comments below. We're going to be having a lot of Lorcana coverage coming up, as well as, like I said, we mentioned Gen Con was a big thing for us. We had such a great time there, and we got exposed to a ton of great games that we brought home with us. So we'll be talking about all those games, and especially Lorcana, over the next couple of months. So be sure to stay tuned, hit that subscribe button, all of our social media accounts. We're going to have tons of cool stuff going on all of our different channels, so be sure to follow along and all the fun that we're having going on. You guys, thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.